Coming up.
After 30 years, the family is wanting to see something done, and they're just kind of left with a lot of unanswered questions and without their beloved family member.
For Vault Studios, I'm Reed Redmond. You're listening to The Daily Crime.
There's always that hole, knowing that Lisa is not with us.
30 years of not knowing. That's been the reality for the family of Lisa Jameson, a 23-year-old who seemingly disappeared from Gilbert, Arizona in the fall of 1991.
Gilbert police say it was November 4th, 1991, when Lisa was last seen in Chandler, dropping off a coworker near McQueen and Chandler Boulevard.
Warby Parker was founded with a lofty goal: to create boutique-quality eyewear at a revolutionary price point. I've been pretty excited to talk about Warby Parker because my home try-on kit just arrived in the mail a few hours ago. I took their online quiz, I picked out 5 pairs based on their recommendations, and then they sent the frames to my home within a few days so I can try them all out for free. I tend to be pretty indecisive when I'm picking out my glasses, so it's really nice to be able to try on each pair like 50 times from the comfort of my own home. Warby Parker is committed to providing exceptional vision care online and in stores, offering eyeglasses, sunglasses, eye exams, and contact lenses. Glasses start at $95, including prescription lenses. Try Warby Parker's free home try-on program. Order 5 pairs of glasses to try at home for free for 5 days. There's no obligation to buy it, ships free, and includes a prepaid return shipping label. Don't let your FSA or HSA dollars go to waste. Put them to good use on Warby Parker prescription glasses, prescription sunglasses, contact lenses, and eye exams. Try 5 pairs of glasses at home for free at warbyparker.com/dailycrime. Colleen Sikora joins us from 12 News in Phoenix. Colleen, tell us a little bit about Lisa Jameson. What have you learned about her?
Well, Reed, first of all, thanks for having me today. Everything that we've heard from Lisa's family is her sister says that she was total and complete joy.
She was an integral part of this family.
The pictures that her family has shared with us, we sat down with her sister, Dr. Treva Kimbrough, her niece, Babette, and her son, who was 2 at the time that Lisa went missing. He's now in his 30s, shared photos of her. And every single photo, you can see just this light in her eyes, a true joy. And that's really what her family has held on to for all of these years. And, her sister says that that's really what's been missing. This beautiful smile, a person who loved to laugh. She was looked up to by her younger niece, who was 15 at the time that Lisa went missing. And so it's really like these memories from her family, that have kind of really stayed with them over these 3 decades. But I mean, she was 23 years old at the time that she went missing. She was a mom. She was married. Gilbert police, tell us that, they believe that she was pregnant at the time. She worked at an electronics company and, had a lot of good things, and really was in a family that was together a lot. They got together. They still do. But obviously without her.
That joy that you talked about, it really comes out in some of the interviews in your reporting that I'll be asking about a little more as we get into it. But as you mentioned, it's been 3 decades now since Lisa Jameson went missing. As far as you've been able to learn, was there anything going on in her life prior to her disappearance to suggest something might have been wrong or off, anything like that?
So that's kind of what's interesting is her sister says Lisa would never leave.
Lisa would not leave. And she definitely would not leave her son because she loved him so much.
And on top of that, Treva talks about how they had plans after, they had made plans for after Lisa had gone missing. So there was things in the works. As far as anything else beyond that, I think that's a question that kind of lingers as we wait to hear more from investigators and as they continue on in this case.
Take us through what exactly happened or what we know about what happened back in November of 1991. Where was Lisa last seen?
Yeah, so it was November 4th of 1991. Gilbert police tell us that she was last seen in Chandler, which is a neighboring suburb here in Phoenix, we call this metro area the Valley of the Sun, and Gilbert and Chandler, they're right next to each other. You can't really tell from street to street which city you might be in, but because everything kind of just blends together. But she was in a neighboring city from where she lived, dropping off a coworker. They worked at an electronics company, as I mentioned before, and so she dropped off her coworker in Chandler near McQueen Road and Chandler Boulevard in the morning, 7:15 in the morning, last seen dropping her off. And then that's kind of where she disappears. After that, her family talks about searching for her.
We searched for my sister every single day.
Her niece described this as a very chaotic time, and understandably so. This is a family, Treva said, that, they were trying to tell police, like, we are a close family. Our sister wouldn't just up and disappear. Treva talks about how they searched in ditches. They searched in nightclubs. They searched in other places she would frequent, like restaurants, just trying to find her, and ultimately coming up empty. The next thing that police are able to find is almost a month later to the day, December 3rd, 1991, her red 1989 Pontiac Le Mans was found in the parking lot of an adult bookstore, and that was in Phoenix. So, several miles away, and they say that there was no evidence in that vehicle that was related to her disappearance. On top of that, Gilbert police say that all of her personal belongings were left at her home. So no money was drawn from her bank account. So just kind of a very odd situation, when you look at it. Her personal belongings are at home. Her car is several miles away in Phoenix, and no Lisa.
Right. Usually you'd think if somebody were planning to leave, they'd grab their things, they'd stop by the bank, things like that. But that doesn't sound like was the case here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's kind of where the questions are left for this family. They have a lot of questions. They have their own suspicions, I think, of what's happened. And ultimately, Gilbert police say they don't have any persons of interest in the case at this point. They know after 30 years, the family is wanting to see something done, and they're just kind of left with a lot of unanswered questions and without their beloved family member.
You feel like you're just at a loss because you don't have any answers.
It's been a long time. We need to know.
There definitely hasn't been enough done.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Check them out at betterhelp.com/vaultstudios. Let's think about therapy using a few analogies. We get our cars tuned up to prevent bigger issues down the road. We get annual checkups and go to the gym to maintain physical wellness and prevent injury and disease. We do chores regularly, maybe some of us better than others, because we don't want to live in a giant mess of a house. Going to therapy is like all of these things. It's routine maintenance for your mental and emotional wellness to prevent bigger issues down the road. Going to therapy doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It just means you're investing in yourself to keep your mind healthy. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Why invest in everything else and not your mind? This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/vaultstudios. That's BetterHelp.com/vaultstudios. Have police said whether or not they believe foul play might be involved, or have they given any indication along those lines?
That's kind of what's interesting is that, they talk about that this is an active case that they're still investigating, that, they haven't named a person of interest. So it's kind of unclear as to how they look at it. I think, the family really sees this as though that there was. Whether investigators see that at this point, I think we're still waiting to find that out.
I wanted to ask a little bit more about some of the conversations you had with some of Lisa's family members, starting with her sister, Dr. Treva Free-Kimbrough. What did she tell you it's been like to be without Lisa all these years?
I think what really stuck out to me, and understandably so, after 30 years, they still think of her every day. They still wonder. And I think that there's such a big lack of closure. And I think there's a lack of peace in that, right? When we have closure in something, we're able to make some kind of peace with it, but there's clearly an unrest with this family. And, Treva talked about how they've kind of gone on with their lives in certain ways, but ultimately and she talks about how she kind of feels guilty about that, because her sister's not here. They don't know where she is. They don't know what's happened. And understandably so, that I think weighs on them a lot. And they want to see something more done. They want to see some kind of answers in some way.
It's super important for me to get to the bottom of this. Justice for us would be prosecuting the person who's responsible for this and anyone who helped them, to bring my family closure.
You mentioned that Lisa had a son as well. He was 2 years old when his mom went missing. What did he tell you about what it's been like to have to get to know his mom through other family members, through their memories and their photographs and things like that?
I think what's so powerful about this family is how close they are. And how Kyle talks about, obviously he's in his 30s now. It's been 3 decades since his mom went missing. He was 2. Yet he says he feels like he knows his mom, through the photos that they've shared, through the memories that they've shared. And he also talks about how his mom kind of lives on through his daughter, which is a beautiful thing, but also kind of heartbreaking when you think about, this. Not only is Lisa's son missing his mom, but now her granddaughter is missing her grandma. And so they also talk, I didn't mention this in the original reporting, but I guess that Kyle has the same laugh as Lisa. They describe it as this very forceful laugh. It just kind of comes out, and really speaks to kind of that joy that I think has been passed, from Lisa to Kyle, and something that they deeply, deeply miss.
Have we heard from Gilbert police about what they think it might take to figure out what happened to solve this?
After 30 years, they say that, they're still working this case. They're still trying to cover any lead that comes through. And they're really wanting, anybody, if anybody remembers anything at any point, to give them a call. And that's kind of where it stands right now for them. They don't have, as I mentioned, they don't have any persons of interest identified in the case, but they do have detectives actively working on it. And so they're just hoping that, what did we not have 30 years ago? The internet. And hopefully this can help jog people's memory and help bring some kind of answers, maybe some closure for this family.
Colleen Sikora with 12 News in Phoenix. Thanks for sharing the story.
Thanks, Reed.
And thank you for listening to this episode of The Daily Crime. As a reminder, we're here every day of the week, Monday through Friday. So if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to or following the podcast wherever it is you're listening right now. If you're looking for more podcasts, you can head over to vaultstudios.com for a full list of our shows that includes our weekly podcast, True Crime Chronicles. That'll do for this one. Until next time, for Vault Studios, I'm Reed Redmond.